Hello everyone and welcome. I'm your host Johnny and this is yet another live coding chill, our second one in a row for the year. We're starting our run and I'm super excited about all of that. So today we're gonna be picking up where we left off with this site for a client. Last time we're trying to set up a new site with dark mode. SvelteKit 1.8 or a stable SvelteKit release has been released since the last time we had streamed, so I wanted to have a look and see how would I do dark mode nowadays, what are the best practices. There have been quite a few comments asking for this and a few suggestions as well in the comments, so I'm very thankful for either type of comment. I'm thankful for every one of you. Make yourselves heard in the chat. If you have no ideas about what to cover, no tips, just tell me what you're up to. I hope you're having a lovely Friday already and it's gonna get even better. So we did this on Friday and I did work on it from that time till today, and I've changed how we've implemented dark mode a little bit. I did bring in Tailwind and found out that it doesn't work that well with the automatic dark mode, so the system preference setting that tells you that I prefer dark modes or light modes, that says that the user wants a dark mode or a light mode. So it seems that Tailwind can be configured to look at something else other than a class that says dark. So I did switch to our HTML having a data theme attribute instead of a class.dark. But Tailwind cannot work with the class-based system or the attribute-based system and the user configuration system. So you can do either or. Either you have Tailwind do a dark mode according to the system preference, or whether a class exists. Not both at the moment. I think that'd be a cool feature to add, but it does mean that I needed to pivot away from using dark : Tailwind variants. It doesn't really matter. That was a bit of Tailwind agnostic implementation we had done anyway, but it does mean that everything that's actually dark mode dependent, I'm accomplishing it using CSS variables only. So I have a surface for the dark color in the card. I have a color for the copy and the more subtle copy, and that's the thing that I changed. Tailwind reads those. I never use the dark column, make this text black helper classes. So that was a change related to the dark mode that we left off last Friday. I've also added the video, which was a key thing that is wanted for this site by the client. They want a nice, cool video background. And I was thinking about doing this stream covering that, but I ended up shooting a video all about it, and I'm editing that video, and it should be out by next Friday, by the next stream. I figured instead of rambling about it for 2 hours or about that much on a stream, it's better to do one of my more streamlined videos where it's like 10 minutes or less. And here's how you set it up, here's what's a video element, here's why we're doing it, and a few extra tips. So that was cool. I also brought in end-to-end tests with Playwright. I linked to YouTube playlists, so some YouTube integration there, not too much, and found out that YouTube loves setting some very weird cookies, even if you use the no cookie version, and some other things. But maybe that doesn't matter that much. Let me know if you want, if as I click around this site or you click around, you can find the link in the comments. There are things that you want me to cover today or in the future. But for now, we're gonna do internationalization, i18n, and localization. Usually when people say i18n, they mean internationalization and localization. The name does come from internationalization, of course, and it's one of the ways to avoid using an S or a Z, like the American or the British way on the internationalization. And it's also kind of hard to say, I think. i18n, maybe easier to say, at least with my accent. In any case, that is a huge subject. There is a huge discussion all about this that I've been watching for quite a while, because you've been telling me that you want to know how to do internationalization with SvelteKit for a very long time, and there is no official solution for it. But the client wants 2 languages for this page, so we have to do something. And I know that's the case for quite a few of you. There is a point where you need to implement something. There is no official way to do it. So we'll try to figure it out together and try to do it. And what we mean with i18n is not just an internationalization, it is localization as well. So it's not just a naive translation of things. You should be aware of the idioms of the area that you're presenting this to. So you won't translate the name of the company, for example. Maybe you won't translate the subscribe button. Maybe something that is like 2 words should be 1 whole sentence, or just 1 word or an emoji in a different locale. So we'll try to tackle this in a let's make it work way, and we'll discuss if we can do even better in the future. Let me know in the comments if you have ideas about it. But that's it for the agenda of the day. And we're moving on to actually doing the internationalization part. So I will be setting my noodle timer for 25 minutes of focus. And then I'll be back to really look at the chat. But of course, feel free to point me in the right direction if we need to do something. In any case, so we went over this, what we did since last Friday. We'll start the internationalization section by having a language flipper thingy. So not a drop-down, I don't think. We only need to support 2 languages here, English, the default, and Greek. And we won't worry about like British English, American English, whatever else English. Today, we'll just be doing English and Greek, and that's it. So I think it will just be a button that we toggle, not a drop down with like flags and that sort of thing. We'll see. Maybe if it's important, we can change it in later down the line in the stream even. So that's about it. Let me switch to my bigger desktop cam. Let's get going to doing some code. So what we want is to get in the header, and many of the things we'll do will actually be very similar to what we did for the theming functionality, because my plan is to set a cookie when the user clicks the language toggler. I would do the same even if it were a drop-down as well. And if that cookie exists, then I will respect the user's decision to see this site on like Greek mode or whatever else, much like dark mode and light mode. We will be doing fancier stuff later down the line to try to check what the user prefers. So if they have a default language preference in their browser, we'll try to use that if they don't have the cookie. If they do, we'll respect that they've finagled in the site and switch to it. So actually, I should disable the dictionary for the coding parts. So what we want is another form really here. And it's going to be using a form action to set a cookie. And we don't know what it will actually do eventually. So let's remove that. And it will be calling the form action for language select. It should have a payload of what language we want this to be. Maybe we don't want the input to be hidden, but maybe we do. We'll think about it. So by default, this should be in English. So we want to show like a en here. We don't want this to take a specific amount of space. So end, we want to say here. And do we need any classes? Maybe not. I always get confused with what to do with language selectors. Should it say the language you're currently on, or should it say the language that you'll end up in if you were to click? Is this obvious enough that we have like a Greek version there? I think for that reason, it's important to have like a more explicit section in the footer, which will be saying, let me bring this up. So it would be nice in the footer to say something like this is also available in Ellinica, in Greek, in Spanish, Espanol, or something like that. So all the languages you provide, there should be an easy way for the user to be able to find it and not hope that they figure out that if they click here, they go into the other language. So what do we want to do here? We do want a hidden input. For language, possibly hidden. So if we are gonna be saying that we are in English now and we want to go to Greek because those are our two options, then this should be hidden indeed. So the next language which we'll define there, we can derive, or we can just specify a constant for now and say next language is L. That's Greek for Greeks. EL, Ellinica. Which is a bit confusing actually for my audience, I would say. But we'll figure it out. Just one letter difference, maybe I should have done Espanol, but that's ES, so no. Right, so do we want an underline here? Not really, should be just fine. And this may be it for now. So this is our language picker. I guess let's derive. Let's have a language here and say that we are on EN currently, and derive the next language to be, if my language equals EN, then the next language is gonna be EL. If not, it's gonna be EN, because we only have two options for now. And similarly, I am gonna use that language value here and say that if the language is EN, then I want to display EN uppercase here, or EL if not. So now we're in the English language. If somehow the current language was already on EL, then it would show that. So that's a way to start. Let me check the agenda as well. See that we kind of did the flipper, and yes, indeed, now we want the form action to set this language in a quickie. So last time, as I said, we did a very similar thing for the theme, and in our root page.server.ts, we are exporting a few actions that we want to handle. I say a few, but currently we are only exporting one action. It corresponds to this one that has the theme toggle icon inside. It's the theme action there. Now we want to provide a language. Hey Ollie, nice to find you there. My favorite type of audience is exactly that. Like, I'm just chilling around here coding and trying to do my thing. And when you're working along on your own thing as well, I find that very pleasing. So thank you for joining. So what we want is language here. I successfully copied this. Can do it again. So we want a language action. It's gonna get the form data from the request, and then the language is gonna be from the language input. So from this thing here. And then we could have a method that checks whether it's a supported language as well. Let's create that. And it gets a string. We can have a supported languages array, and the nomenclature here can be different. So supported locales may be more accurate. We'll fine tune that stuff later. So if the supported languages includes the one you gave me, then it's truthy. And I think there is a way to create a type based on the supported languages here. but I'll need to look it up. So TypeScript based on strings in array is what I want to search. Not exactly. Right. This is what we wanted. The thing was that we need that as const here for TypeScript for this trick to work. So the supported language type is gonna be any one of those. So I guess array index 0, array index 1. And then we can say language is supported language. So if we run this method, it takes a string and then it says, well, what you gave me, the string you gave me, is a supported language if it's included here. And I guess we need to explicitly say, let's pretend that this is one of the supported languages here. And is supported language is what we want to do here. Pass the language there. Can I take anything? Maybe. So let's expand this and say that our supported language method is unknown. And first check type of supported language, type of language, sorry. The type of what you've given me is a string and it's in our array. And now it's happy. Now we can fail if it's not a supported language here. If not, we can send the language cookie, a new one, with the language, make sure that the path is the root so it works across our website, and make it last forever for 10 years. If in 10 years we haven't remembered their preference, then I don't think they'll be coming to us. So yeah, after this, then we know that language is either en or el, which are the dictionaries that we're gonna have for the supported languages. Cool. So if I actually press this, then it should be hitting this form. Should be handled by this and get a 200 back. Indeed. And that should also mean that now we have a brand new cookie. We go to application, cookies, we have a language for EL. Great, so we want Greek at this point, which is great. This part seems to work, but we're never using it, and we're always saying on the side, bring me the English copy, which is not what we want, but we have happily made it to this. And now we actually need to use the cookie for the selected language. So much like we did in the theme, we're going into our server hook. So inside source, we have a hooks server TS file that does a few things to every request that passes through them. So that's another one of those things where if you want to heavily cache, then you might want to try to do this in a different way. Although unlike the theme, you have to do this on the server because the spec says that you shouldn't be changing the language of the HTML document on the fly. That should never happen. So you may be able, you may be able to do something a bit cleverer, I guess. Here, we may be able to have two cast versions for English and EL, but I haven't looked hard enough for this. I'm just having a private cache for the specific user there. So not a shared cache where every user is gonna be getting either the English or the EL version and the light mode or the dark mode version according to what cookies they have. I'm sure there is a clever way to have like these 4 different combinations cast for a long time, but I haven't looked into it yet. That's something for the future. Let me know if you have ideas about that. In any case, it is in this handle, it is in this hook that we want to get from the cookies our language. And if it's not set, then we want to use en. And we want to say that language is this. And I guess this is where we decided that we'd be doing the theme check-in. So I can extract those methods we created for supported language to this file, export it, do a if is supported language event locals language is this thing. Save that and import this from the hooks file. But you'll notice that TypeScript is trying to tell us that you haven't specified that you can have a language in your locals object where you're putting it in here. So let's go into our type definition file, update.ts, and update it to say that yes, we need to export the supported language type as well. And say that exported language can be one of the supported languages. And we're probably going to put it in page data as well, but I'll leave it out for now. So now our hook is happy. It will be checking for whether the language cookie exists or defaulting into en. And this is where we will want to default to something related to the user or the user browser or something like that. But for now, we're just always defaulting to en. And based on the cookie that is set, we want to do a couple things. In this hook, we do want to find the place to specify the language. So there is an app HTML template file for SvelteKit, and this is where we're looking into this thing I made up, where we're saying that our theme is this, which is just a placeholder, just an easy way for our hook to be able to find the placeholder and inject what we actually want the theme to be. Similarly, we may want a similar trick and do like the template language here, and say to our hook that maybe the first thing you do, go through the HTML, find the language template here, and add the language that's in the cookie, which should be fast enough, because replace will just find the first hit of this, and it's at the start of the document, so we should be good. So you can see that the language now is EL for Greek, which I guess would be good, but nothing else is actually using the Greek version of the site. So we're correctly telling the user and the browser, the navigator, that this should be in Greek, but it's not, because we're not actually using this anywhere else. So let's start using it. It may be, the first place we want to use it is definitely for the en language switcher, but would also be localizing this about section, we'll call it something else. And I guess I'll make up a few other strings to translate here. And then by the time the next episode hits, the next stream hits, we'll have gone over with the client and added some content. But in order to have the current language, we can go to our root layout loader. So there is a plus layout.server.ts at our routes directory. And we want to get the language extracted from the locals here. And then I think that's what we may need to do. I'm not sure. We may want to have like a copy object or something like that here. So the meta as well should be language specific, but that's hard to check. We will be doing it, but in just a moment. Let's just make the toggler work. So in our header, much like we're getting the theme from the page data, which gets there by what we did into our layout server.ts. So everything we return from our load method, it will be available in page data dot wherever you put it. So our language is page data language, and that's where we should probably go into our definitions file and say that our page data will have a language there. And then in our header, we'll say that our language, just take it from there, and then according to the language, the next language is going to be that. So the moment we do this, you should see that this flips to EL. So now we know correctly that we have the EL cookie for the language set. If we click it again, nothing seems to happen, but if we refresh, we have set the correct cookie, so it loads the other version of the site. We've done something similar for the theme, but not quite, because we actually don't want to make this change on the client. Much like, remember that we said that you shouldn't change this lang attribute on the client side. That's bad. We literally do want to route the user, like a real browser reload there, so you can get the right version of the site. Also, I guess important to note that we don't have like a specific domain for this. So on this site for now, we do have it in this domain. We don't have like an en the site, or el the site, or for friends the site. We're not using a directory here for the language, so it's not root domain /en or el or fur. Every version of the site is available on the same path, which may be bad. You may want like unique canonical paths for every language, but we may optimize later on that front. We don't have a lot of content on the website. We won't have blog posts and that sort of thing, so we should be fine. But that is something to keep in mind, that we only have one place where the app exists, and which version you get just depends on whether you have this cookie. In the near future, it will depend on what your preference is, but the point is that you won't be able to tell your friends, go to the French version of your site or to the Greek version of your site. You'll just be able to share our link, and then whatever they get is dependent on their preference, which is neither good or bad. It's just a different way to do it, and the way we're doing it for now. So this thing sets the cookie, but it should do something else. Unlike the theme, we don't want to manually change the HTML element to change that attribute. What we want is a reload, I guess. So if I remember my enhance, SvelteKit enhance form thingy, you can return something that you want to happen after success. And I do think GitHub Copilot is correct here, saying that we want to do a location reload, but maybe SvelteKit does have a specific refresh or reload or whatever. So let's search. I guess not. So yeah, for now, that's all we want to do. We click here, the form submits, and then we switch to the Greek version of the site. Everything's good. You can see the HTML lang EL here, hopefully. It's not right on my head. And it's still quite fast. I also brought in fonts, and you can see them flickering, swapping in. In reality, if you are pressing this, you shouldn't see the flicker because you already have the font, so it should immediately load with the correct font. But that's also something that I may cover in the future. Just let me know if you want to see it. Let's make this more fun and change this about. So our header has this for the about page. The link is going to stay the same, but the copy should be dependent on the locale. So I guess in a very naive way, let's do it exactly like this. If your language is Yen, then I want to see about here. But if your language is Greek, then I want to see Scherika. My speller thing is flipping out. It's like, what's this? It's all Greek to me. So you can see that this change, kinda interestingly, the underline does respect the X and breaks there, which is kinda cute. But that's by the by, that's the proof that we're getting somewhere. My timer has clicked, so I'll just give ourselves a moment to recollect our thoughts. And then move on to 25 more minutes of work. So here we are in the agenda. We are using the cookie for the selected language, and we are doing the rudimentary copy based on our language cookie. Now we can do slightly better and then move on to seeing what Next.js actually does for this situation. And Next.js is, I think, a great example for how to do internationalization well. It's one of the big things that I've been saying for quite a while now. I was very convinced about SvelteKit from kinda early on. I know that there would be quite a few squibbles as it upgrades and makes it a stable release. But I was very keen on it and would back it. I think start your project with SvelteKit. But if it heavily depends on localization, I would say go with Next.js. I think it's head and shoulders above. But now, with everything in SvelteKit being stable, even though there is not an official solution on internationalization, we may give it a crack. Let's see how it works today. So what we want to do is be inspired by Next.js and try to see how we can map the correct language, the correct strings according to your locale. We'll see how that is going to work. There are a few ways to go about it. Again, this site is going to be quite simple. Not many places that have copy and not much change in copy as well. We may add some more sections here, like the company mission, who we are, like we're working with these people. Suddenly the project balloons up and you have lots of strings to translate, and it does get unmanageable if you start only doing if the language is English, do this, or if it's Greek, then do the other thing. And if you have multiple language support, then that's just unworkable. You can't get there ever. But we may try. All right, 25 more minutes. Set them up. Set my timer up. Let's get to it. So, should I hunt down every little copy that we have and then change it? Because remember, we are saying that we have meta descriptions as well to worry about. So if we look at our layout, we are adding a specific title, a specific description, a few meta things according to the locale. You want these to be dynamic as well. And if you have the Greek version of the site, this should be in Greek. So what's the best way to do that? So these should be dynamic as well, the default meta tags. They should depend on the language. So maybe let's create, should it be in source? I guess so. Source dictionaries folder and have an en.ts. en.json, a JSON file, and have a default meta. I guess we can just copy whatever I have here. And my prettier thing will make it valid JSON with the double quotes and all that. This is good to see. And let's create an EL JSON. I need to translate Greek on the fly. What? How is it inspired in Greek? Like my Greek friends, please help me. Time-lapse will translate. Και την δημιουργικότητά σου και δώσε χρήσιμα. Riveting content this, I'm sure. Right, so the default meta for the Greek version should be this, English should be the same. How do we get there? We can do a dynamic import on the server at that point. So on our layout file, we can say, I'm trying to switch back to English, got it, that we say that the dictionary can we do dynamic import like that? Maybe. And you can find this one level up, I guess. Dictionaries, this .json. I'm not sure that's gonna work, but hey. Alright, and according to the dictionary, give me the correct default meta. Await this. This should be a sync, I guess. And do I need to do like a dot default there? Yes. Maybe not. To get the default export. We'll see. So, what we've been waiting for. It seems like somehow this has worked. So if we look at the body here, you can see that the description meta is Greek. And I guess the easier way to check this, you can see that the title of this page is in Greek. We toggle the language and it's in English. So keep your eye here, top left. I'm sorry that this is not super readable, but you can see that it changes to the correct language specific meta title here, which is pretty cool. I think we've done better than I was hoping with this ghetto localization, internationalization solution I've come up with. And I say come up with, but of course, like there's been a lot of research and many people that have done this more than I. All those ideas I've tried to bring into this haphazard solution, which seems to work. So that's great. So that's good for the default meta tags. What do we do in the header specifically? How, like, do we just have the whole dictionary everywhere? That's a big problem. So do you want to be shipping to the client, to the user, all your dictionary, like your all the strings that you have on every page? We won't be shipping English and Greek to the user, which is good. But do we want to give them every single possible string? So even though they are on the home page, should they be getting the translations for the about page as well? Probably not. But maybe that's a problem for the future. I'm not sure. Let's say maybe we can put the dictionary itself in the locals. How about that? How about that? So can we do this in our server file? So if we have a supported language, but then just trying to think, like the whole dictionary there, does it make sense? I'm not sure. And we go here, and then we say that the dictionary is gonna be a record full of string keys to maybe strings or records of strings. I'm not sure. Be one level. How do we do like a recursive object type of situation? I'm not sure. Let's say one level deep for now. So in the locals, we put the dictionary there. Let's see if that's gonna work. We dynamically import the relevant dictionary for the language. We should do something to confirm that we do have this. And we don't have like a fallback dictionary. If you happen to not translate this, then you're out of luck, I guess. You get like a null, classic JavaScript problem. But hey, we do have the dictionary in the locals, which does mean that maybe here we don't need to do that, but we can get dictionary, and I was gonna say that should still work, but I guess not. Undefined. This is not there. So in our server hook, we're saying that if this is a supported language in the quickies, which it always should be, then you go there and you import this. Is it? Yeah, it's different, the wrong directory here. Cool. So it does work in the same way, just that the path was wrong. And indeed, English, Greek, cool. Let's take this for the about. And ideally, I guess we should be given different accessible labels to these icons, so you can see that it starts, our dictionary starts ballooning up already. And we may want a more robust solution soon. But for now, it's fine. And in the layout, trying to think how we would get that about key. I guess we can have like a common translations as well. Like every page has this. I think I've seen that before. And that has like about gets translated to about. And subscribe. No, subscribe is not a common one. And so this has an interpolation as well. Let's try to do it. So these things that are in the header and the footer, we're putting them in like the common key, which may be fair enough. And this is more nested, I guess. Those are the 2 levels of nesting we were talking about. Maybe we'll need even more, we'll see. But it does mean that we can go to our layout file, the server, the loader, and say actually we also want you to load the common words from the dictionary that appear in every page. Then that means we need to go update our page data as well, saying that they have a default meta, which is this, and a common, which is this. And then according to the page, it may have like different stuff. So let's add this section to our Greek. Try to be quick. So by name, like the before my handle, Greek does have an extra word here. And now that we have that, maybe we can go to our header file and say that actually second guessing myself as well. So it should have like a copy key, I guess. So there should be a copy key that has like common and other non-common stuff, I suppose. Maybe that's where we should be keeping this. So copy key, it always has common and maybe other things. And we're making this available. And thanks to that, if we do go to our header, then we should be able to say wherever we were saying about here that it's page data copy common about. And this does work as before. Amazing. Let's see if we can do the same for the footer. Let's copy this and say that we want this looks ugly, that's why a more robust helper would be possibly good. We need to bring in the Svelte store. But my autocomplete has failed me, so I need to copy paste it from here. And now you can see that we're getting there. Yay! So that's a success. Our header and our footer are localized for now. As I said, we do want like a language switcher there. Maybe we can do that in the end. But there is some content that we'd want to localize in this page or the about page here. So how would we solve for that? So let's say that the about page here, we want to localize about our project and find out much more. Should we and should you have like huge keys for this? Probably not. But let's see. Let's say that for our English, we have a specific section for the about page. And we have the about our project thingy here. Then a description key, that's all of this. But it gets more interesting because it's two things, isn't it? The link is a separate HTML element, so it would be easier if we had it split up for now. And if you had more paragraphs, what would you do? Maybe more nesting. That's a problem for the future. Yeah, this looks silly, not the industry standard solution, but you gotta start from somewhere. And let's try to use this here and maybe see what, find out what happens if we don't have an available translation. So in our about page, server file, what can we do? We should have access to whatever's been loaded before. Or we could put it in a different key. Maybe that'd be easier. Like have a common copy key and a page copy key, and you always have it like that. Maybe, not sure. But we should find out. Visit in the docs, loading data. We want our more nested method to have access to the loaded stuff. Remember. And there should be some await there. Using parent data, great. So it has a parent and we can await it. Amazing. Should work. So here we have access to parent. We can await the parent if we make this synchronous method and get out the common copy, and we want to spread whatever copy we have. It will have the common object, but also have the about copy here, which we'll find in locals dictionary about. I think that's true. Maybe not. Too few commas, too many. Ah, yeah, not an object. So now the about page still has access to this, to the common strings. This is great. And we want to actually use them, the non-common ones here, and say that we want page. It's not gonna help me out. So let's paste it again. This thing in here should be page about what did I call it? Say page. So each page has the common copy and then the page like unique copy. Maybe unique makes sense. Page data unique. And I called this about our project. It should work the same. I guess not. I guess not. So page data unique didn't quite work. Where did I actually add it? Page data copy unique. Copy unique. And maybe we can say that our layout server thingy initially says that unique is nothing, just to avoid that sort of blowing up, harsh blowing up. And say that our copy also has a unique thingy. So now it's happy, just to prove that worked. Let's change this to exclamation mark so it does read from there. Let's see what happens in the Greek version. Error? Error, why? Because it doesn't get there? Well, kind of makes sense. We will want fallback for that. But my timer went off. So when we're back, we'll fill out the rest of the strings for this page and then do the Greek version, prove that works, and then have a look at defaulting to a locale according to the user's locale. I believe that's what I wanted to show next, and then move on to talk about more professional solutions, I suppose. More similar to using a library like inlang. If you're using a CMS, they do have extensive, most of them do have internationalisation support, localization support. So you use a CMS for your products, they do allow you to say, this product has English, Greek, French, Italian descriptions, and then someone fills it out, and then you can fetch it like that. I think that even if you have a solution like that, having the cookie, putting the language in the locals should get you there. So that's the important thing to take away from today, that you have access to the language that you want to display, and then what exactly you do with en or i18 or fr, that language, whether you read your own dictionary or you hit your CMS and say, I want the English version or the Greek version, that's up to you. I think this sets you up for success, even though this method is a bit more ghetto, I'd say. Yeah, just a quick breather here. I think that's what we'll be doing next. Does it sound exciting? So user-based, instead of defaulting to English every time, try to default to the user's locale. That'd be neat. And then see if we can use a more exciting solution. There is this new library called inlang, which has been getting some traction, but I'm not sure if it's just hype or if it's going to be legit or if it's going to be like a startup business at some point. I don't know. But we may figure it out together later in this episode of the stream. Alright, so let's get to it. Exciting stuff. First, let's use these things. So, back in our about page, back here, maybe I can do half of this, half of the other. No. My language switching key is caps lock, which can be a problem. And then so this should look the same. Hey Oli. Yeah, I've heard about Svelte trying to do an official solution there, which is why I've been waiting to do this very much requested episode as well. But there are so many comments here. Sometimes you just need this to get working. I think someone was asking here, like, Ritz, like, what's happening? Like it's SvelteKit is now stable, but you haven't uploaded anything. What are we gonna do? And some arguments on should it be first-party support, should it not? I do think it should be, but in the meantime, I am hoping that the way we're doing the cookie stuff should get people kinda going if they need a project now to have internationalization. That should do it, and then be able to adapt to whatever the official solution ends up being. I am excited to see it because I'm sure that if it's a first-party solution, I do wish that SvelteKit does offer like an out-of-the-box batteries included solution for internationalization, like Next.js does after all, because then SvelteKit can do all sorts of magic according to the routing that would be a lot of work for us to do as SvelteKit users, as developers. So I would be excited to see that. But until then, someone wants this site live with Greek support, so we're doing it. But yeah, I think this is also why like my ghetto solution with dictionaries may not be that bad, because the moment you use a library, you don't know, will it catch on, will it not? And you implement in the way that they've done, and then you need to change everything. Not great, but hey, it's good to see what's available. So, back to copy, an engineer's favorite subject, like copy-paste a few things. Right, so the English part works. Can close this and copy all of these keys here and see me translate Greek on the fly. Thanks for the thumbs up. Maybe the exclamation mark is a bit nuts now that I think about it. Maybe not. Maybe I haven't even talked about right-to-left languages as well. So that's kind of interesting. I am European-based. I have worked with US companies as well. And sometimes we've had to do left-to-right support those languages. But as a first party, I've always worried about more traditional, more, I don't know, like westernized languages, I guess. And that's the same, because a lot of the word is not westernized. A lot of the word uses languages that you don't read left to right. And that's a big subject to get into properly one day. And for those things, you need more than just here some strings. You also need different display attributes as well on your styling and CSS. You need to make sure that your content is designed to work for different locales. But again, that's a much bigger subject for potentially a different episode. And I'm happy to see more support by YouTube as well. By the Chrome team, actually, regarding that. So what did I decide here? Leave the exclamation mark here. Indeed. I guess for Spanish I would need the upside down exclamation mark as well before. So we have this. Will it work on Greek? Great. So that's something that works, which is always exciting. Now, something to improve is what are we doing with the default locale. So we check if we have the language cookie. If not, we just assume it's gonna be English. But what if we could do better? What if we could check that if the user is coming from Greece, let's show them the Greek version of the website, which does annoy some people that are vacationing in Greece. So that's another user concern that you should be aware of. That I don't think there is like the one neat solution of what you want to do in this example. But for now, let's say that, all right, you're visiting from Greece, get the Greek page, and if you want to switch, then you can use the switcher here. How do we do that? Well, Next.js has some thoughts on this, and it's using a couple libraries. It's using the negotiator library, which is a polyfill for some things that the browser has, where you can pass it the headers and then figure out what languages the user wants, and the international locale matcher polyfill, which you give it what languages the user supports, what locales you support, and then what you want to fall back on. And then it spits out whatever is left. So let's see how that would work. Let's bring in negotiator first. Awesome. That is in. Let's see how negotiator handles the headers from the request. So we have this library. Let's try to use it like this. Ooh, interesting. No types for this, but it has like 1 million npm downloads, so I'm sure someone will have the type definitions indefinitely typed. Indeed, it does. And the headers, I think, are in the request headers here. So unlike that example, I guess you do need to pass it like this, or maybe not. Like do we just pass in the event request? Maybe. Let's just want the headers. But it doesn't quite like it because things. Do I need to stringify this? I guess not. Is this just a string? Does SvelteKit have a get headers thing? Headers. Spread them? No, so that is a headers object, so I'm not sure why it is confused. Let's not delete this, ignore this for now. We'll figure it out, I guess. And then let's look at the languages. What did we get, if anything? Try to get there. Star. Does that mean all of them? it feels like it kind of worked, I guess. Is it like, do I want to mess with my Chrome to see what languages I do have? Star. this also says just give it a request object. I guess it does want the headers. Oh well, let's keep following this. And right, so we do need to call languages here. We have. Does it mean I accept every language? Does this mean that we should be passing the languages here? There's someone that's making a comment as well. All right, so this is a cool thing in the Next.js docs as well, is that they have their pretty much their deploy preview feature that they've just been putting live to everyone in their documentation as well. I think that's super cool. So it is saying that this should be different, but is this because I haven't sent any accept headers? Maybe, I'm not sure. In any case, let's keep going with this and say that we do have our supported locales. We can call this, I guess, and we can call this supported locale. We can call this a supported locale. Sorry for the name change. And then we want to bring in this other library, the Format.js one. So let's bring it in. And say explicitly say that this is en. And here I suppose we want to use that match library. Didn't like it that much, but maybe if we pass it this supported locales here, it needs to be mutable. What? That's crazy. But hey, say that the locale is this, and log that our locale is locale. See where we're arriving here. It doesn't like many things. I guess did I cause some troubles? It was saved, so I'm not sure why. Incorrect locale information provided. Huh. Interesting. Incorrect locale information provided, they say. What do they mean? First the languages from here. I guess it doesn't like this, right? Because if I do this, Let's say here's the headers. I hate red underlines when it's just a suggestion, but that's by the by. So still, this library does not like the result of languages here. But why? And this comment is not helping us much. Oh. Alright, so if the headers are like this, then it's happier, I guess. Let's log the languages too, because I'm curious. So if we provide them like this, it figures out that the languages we support are in US and N. Because that's what we put here. It's fair enough. But what do we have with like actual headers? Do we have a lot? So for the event headers, do we have any? Interesting. So NGB is there, and Greek, because I have set it up, I've even set up friends. Quite interesting. Is it... Why can't it figure it out? Is it because it's cased differently? If this works, I'll be surprised. But not that surprised. So yeah, amazingly, maybe it is a casing problem. Because now it seems happy, now it's getting the language correct. But if I just were to give it all the headers, SvelteKit, it won't work. Maybe it's a casing issue. But if they were using this, so just curious, if I do accept, if I do access this with a lowercase, anyway, let's not think about it too much. No, we will think about it. If I do accept language with uppercase, then it blows up. So I'm imagining that they are accessing the headers not like this, but like in an older school way, which is not cool. by them. But hey, maybe I can raise an issue or fix it. So we're doing this to patch whatever they're doing wrong. Hopefully that's not too confusing. We don't need to log this anymore, but from our million of languages that we have, we are defaulting to en as the locale. If my ordering was different, then I may be getting the L version. It is kind of neat, I suppose. Do I want to check quickly my Chrome language settings? I will. So I just want to quickly check. And indeed, my first is English United Kingdom. Then it's then it's Greek, then it's English United States, which is quite funny. I don't know why. But I'll put this first. I'll put Greek first. And let's try to log it again and see that now Greek is first, indeed. So if I didn't have a cookie, no cookie, I should be seeing the Greek version, because that's what this user me prefers first. Like before the English one, show me the Greek version. Come on, you can do it. Yeah, but we're not respecting this. Because we're not using this anywhere. Where should we be using this? I guess this should be locale as well, but we'll change it maybe off stream because it would be boring. Just trying to think here. Do not default this. I'm saying, do not default the language. Do your theme stuff, do not default the language. If it is on the cookie, put it in the locals, all good. Else, maybe that's where we're doing all of this magic. Else, we're getting the languages from the header, we're figuring out the locale from this. And we are saying when locals language equals locale. Can we say as supported locale? I guess. Maybe we can double check as well. No need. And then regardless, we want to set a dictionary according to the language in the locals. So this is the language cookie, let's say. And at that point, we have a language in the locals, which is what we want to use here. You know what we want to use here? All right. And now you can see indeed that even though we don't have a cookie set, we are defaulting to the Greek version of the website, because my preference is Greek. And I wonder if I were to do an incognito window, it still goes to this because I guess Chrome still gives that information here. But if I click the switcher, then I see the English version. If I'm like, this is all Greek to me, I don't want it, I want to switch the language, I click, I get to the English version, and now because I have set a cookie, every time I refresh or when I navigate around the site, it is going to be the English version of the site because I've selected this as well. So yeah, I thought that was kinda neat. So it is respecting my preference as a user, where I've changed things up to say, if there is a Greek version, then feed me that one. Not too bad. I will switch the language here to make this be locale, and maybe the cookie as well, but that's probably something to do off stream, and I think we will consider like these kinda done. This definitely done. Did we talk about what Next.js does? Definitely talked about it a little bit. Hey Jorge, what's up? So we did talk about what Next.js is doing. It is doing all of this with the negotiator library and the format.js library. And then it's doing other things with the Next.js capability. So they do have like a dictionary suggestion here, which we've done as well. They do have an HTML wrapper component, so unlike SvelteKit, you can define a component that has the whole template there, even the HTML, which you cannot do with SvelteKit, which is why we did the template thing and the replace in the transform page chunk. But yeah, that's about it. And I am wondering, should we brave this step of CMS and tools like inlang, which I guess we will. So I'll give, maybe I'll do the refactor just to do this on camera as well, on stream. So what I'm saying is actually I want this to be a locale. 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 Maybe even in our app HTML, we can call this locale. I guess this is language here, so. Maybe that's why I had this key there. Oh well. Does this... Can I do this as a ternary? I don't think so. I guess I could, but should I? So this could be here. Or all of this? What a ternary. And if it is a supported locale, then we can put it in there. We can load the dictionary. And all of those things should work just fine. Yep, still works. more obvious in this version. See, it still works, but clearly it doesn't, because there are more things we need to change now. Our layout file, this doesn't exist. It's locale. It's locale. This file has a dictionary, so I guess we're fine. Is that it? Where else do I say language? Here. Here. Right. Guess I'm setting a language cookie. We'll change that to a locale cookie. Was language the correct name to use all along? Maybe. Maybe. Ah, right. So here. I guess we only have two possible locales, so we still don't want anything fancier here. Right, that should work a bit better. So by default, Greek, because that's my preference in this browser. Then if I click and I have set a cookie, it will respect what I've set, English locale or Greek locale. And it will never switch unless this cookie expires, which is in 10 years, or if I manually delete it. So we'll fall back to that. Cool. All right. Maybe commit point. Is there a English one? No. Right, that feels kind of good to me. Maybe this is a great point to mention. What do you do with end-to-end tests? A lot of my tests with Playwright do depend on describing to the test runner what they should be seeing. So I don't like using test IDs, and I definitely don't like using classes or anything like that to say find like the element with test ID this, and then click the element with test ID that, or the element of the class that, and then submit the form with class big form or whatever else. I like using natural language like you would tell a QA person, like Kenzie Dodds says. So I will tell them click the subscribe button, and then they will look for copy saying subscribe. What happens, I have been asked during a talk covering this, what happens if you offer multiple languages and the button's name changes according to the locale? So if it's like subscribe, or it is a graffiti, or it is whatever else, what do you do then? So then that is a case to use test IDs. It's not like I avoid test IDs at all costs. Sometimes it's more sensible to use test IDs. But I would say that localization should be an important part of your website. So I would have something that does actually check if I'm on the Greek version of the website, do I see in the about, do I see sketika here? And do I see like this thing? Do I see onoma instead of name for the name input, and all of those things? So I would actually test them with the literal strings there. But the problem will be, how do you do the translations? Do you have a Google Docs thing where everybody can submit the language strings? Your translators can say, oh, this should have different copy. That makes things trickier. That makes people more tempted to use test IDs instead of specific copy, because then a third-party translator or someone else that's not on your engineering team may change that copy and break your tests. And people hate when their tests break and they try to debug and they're like, oh, that's not my fault. Someone else changed something in a Google Doc. So, but then if it is important copy, like your submit button, maybe your test should break. I don't know. Food for thought as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And yes, Oli seems involved as well. So Jorge, we're talking about this like huge internationalization brainstorming issue and discussion that I have seen. I'm not sure if there is another discussion. If there is, then please link me to it, like leave it in a comment or somewhere else. Hit me up, because I'd love to read it. There are lots of nuggets in this thread that I have found in the issues. I have been subscribed to it for quite a long time. And yeah, as I mentioned, like we needed Greek support for this site, so I'm doing it. And if in the future SvelteKit does do a first-party solution, amazing. Like I'll refactor and do another stream, and maybe then I'll do an actual video of here's how you do it in like 20 minutes or 5 minutes or however long it's going to be, instead of a 2-hour stream. Right, so end-to-end tests, always a fun subject. I like getting this question during talks. CMS, I have mentioned, they would give you something like extra fields for your supported languages, and then you tell your CMS, I want the Greek version of this content, and you'd load it up like that. But something from the end of that issue discussion on SvelteKit was this library. And I can never be sure, like are people just like pimping a library they are creating. But if they're excited about it, if it's working for them, if it has like a couple things here, then reactions, then maybe it's legit. I have tried to look at the video of this, and it's a hard video to watch, but the little GIFs they have here are quite exciting. So I may want to have a look at implementing this next time. I was gonna say now, but I think we've run on a bit longer. Let me know more localization thoughts in the comments and the chat. I'll read up more and see what we'll tackle next. If you want other stuff to tackle, as always, let me know and we'll see what we can do. An infinite carousel has been suggested quite a few times in the past couple months, which I don't know how I would sell to like this particular client, so I may need to do it somewhere else. But it would be a carousel like we've done with Tailwind, magnetic snap it in carousel, but when you click at the last element, then you go back to the front, which could be neat. Another neat thing that I've been asked that is kind of tangential, close to that, would be infinite loading in the infinite carousel. So you bring in more pictures and more content as you reach the end of that carousel. That'd be cool to do, I think, on a stream. And as well, like more internationalization. If I learn more stuff about how to do internationalization, i18n with SvelteKit, if I try this a bit more offline, for example, if I find out that this is quite legit, maybe I'll try to set it up in this project and see what happens. And I'll be covering that. Also, the thing we were doing last time, this background video, there will be a video of my own covering this. By next Friday, I'm confident that I'll have it edited and uploaded, and it will have been the first new video in quite a while, quite a few months. So I'm excited for it to go live and have people start seeing it and start having cool backgrounds. I wasn't sure about doing that video. I thought it would be fun for sure, but I didn't know if people still do this quite a lot. But during my research, I found that Unreal Engine does it. Those look quite cool. I did see that there are a few tricks as well. Like some sites do have a very short video that loads immediately, and then after that content has loaded, they switch to the rest of the video, which is quite sneaky as well. But yeah, I think it's a neat style design solution that even in the age where animations are very popular would be cool to see. Cool to teach. All right. I'll get one more sip. I do need to create some more coffee and wait for a few comments, and then I'll see you out and wait for you next week. Cool. Thanks again, everyone, for being here. Next Friday, potentially, I may have a special fluffy guest. Thanks again for watching. See you next Friday. Bye to all.